As I said yesterday in my member statement, I'm worried about the direction this government is taking its local governance reform. We are getting further and further from a renewed democracy that is closer to the people and in their communities, as this was explained to New Brunswickers while it was happening. Instead, what we're hearing and seeing is an even more centralized local governance system where municipalities have inherited responsibilities without the powers nor the resources needed to enact local solutions to local realities. What we are hearing is that regional service commissions are on the brink of becoming a centralized tentacle of the provincial government, a fourth level of bureaucracy. The good news is that it's not too late to change course. So can the minister please explain to us who exactly holds the decision-making at the regional service commission level? His department or the local elected governments?
Minister of Local Government and Local Governance Reform.
Merci beaucoup pour la question, Monsieur le Président. J'apprécie toujours une chance d'avoir un débat ici sur le paquet de Chambre. So, Mr. Speaker, the member opposite asked a question around local governance reform. The good news, Mr. Speaker, is that we actually undertook this reform. You know, New Brunswick was in a position where individual municipalities, individual communities were struggling, Mr. Speaker, but now, thanks to local governance reform, they have an opportunity under the new structure that we've put in place to make sure that they have a success. So it takes time to put a structure in place, Mr. Speaker, and we've done that structural reform, and it continues. But at the end of the day, what we need to make sure is that through this structural reform that people do have an opportunity to make sure that their voices are heard, to make sure that the needs of their communities are well understood, so that we can make decisions on the structure that will allow for those things to take place. We're doing that work every day, Mr. Speaker. It continues. We're just going to have to continue working in the best interest.
Thank you, Minister. The Deputy to Kent North.
Le ministre parle comme si la réforme est terminée, puis elle est loin d'être terminée. Elle est extrêmement loin d'être terminée, même qu'ils ont amené un projet de loi hier pour enlever réforme du nom du ministre, quand la réforme n'est clairement pas terminée. Les municipalités disent qu'elle n'est pas terminée, les CSR disent qu'elle n'est pas terminée. Le gouvernement a peut-être lâché la pédale du gaz puis dit, nous autres, on a fait ce qu'on avait à faire, merci beaucoup, mais ce n'est pas le cas sur le terrain. Et donc, ce qu'on entend, c'est que le gouvernement impose son agenda au CSR et au niveau des termes de financement. Donc, Monsieur le Président, je vais reposer ma question et redonner une chance au ministre d'expliquer exactement, donner une réponse à la question. C'est, est-ce que le ministre peut-il nous expliquer qui exactement prend les décisions au niveau de la Commission des services régionaux? Son ministère ou les gouvernements locaux?
Minister of Local Government, Local Governance Reform.
Well, thank you again for the question, Mr. Speaker, through you to the member opposite. So when we went through reform, and I understand the member's point, the reform is still ongoing, but we have the legislative structures in place, and that's why that piece was put in or brought in yesterday, Mr. Speaker, just to answer that part of it. At the end of the day, the structural reform is in place, the pieces are in place. The idea here was to make sure that these regional service commissions have the ability to address the needs of their entire region. Some of these regional service commissions have large municipalities within them, so they have large partners that they can work with. Other regional structures do not have large municipalities within them, so they're going to have to work a little bit differently, Mr. Speaker. But what we are striving towards here, what we are working towards, is making sure that every single one of those municipalities, rural districts, local governments have success under these regional service commissions, so that ultimately everybody succeeds when we work together.
Thank you, Minister. Acceptable opposition at 50 hours.
What we're hearing on the ground is exactly this. They do not have that ability. So the minister is saying we want them to have that ability. We've changed this structure so that they have this ability. They do not have that ability. They have the responsibilities of making these changes, but they do not have the powers nor the resources to do the changes that they want to do. And so the minister and the people working in his department do not know what the problems are in Bathurst, in Edmundston, in St. Stephen's. They are here in offices in Fredericton, and they have centralized this decision-making and are imposing their own agenda on the regional service commissions. So my last question, since I'm not getting an answer from the minister, why doesn't he trust democratically elected local government officials? Why don't you trust them?
Minister of Local Government.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I always enjoy a little bit of theatre here in the House. The reality is that I have met with mayors to hear exactly what's going on in their communities. I've met with councillors to understand exactly what's going on in their communities. I've met with the municipal associations who are the advocates for all of those people in those communities, all of those councillors, all of those mayors. And, Mr. Speaker, we have worked very well with the municipality associations to make sure that we are understanding what the needs are. You know, the very important thing through this, Mr. Speaker, is that while we had to put a structure in place to be able to make a change, it's been 60 years, far too long for us to go under the way we were going, so we had to make a change. Now that we've got that change in place, we do have a responsibility to make sure that we're listening to people and that their concerns around how this structural reform continues, that is an important part. Making sure that we're on the same page and having those dialogues, I'm having those dialogues with the municipal associations, with the people that are involved.
Thank you, Minister.